everyone, I'm Scot England. Welcome to a very special conversation with the little giant of gospel music, Jamie Coulter. Welcome, Jamie.
Man, it's good to be here, Scott.
Jamie is celebrating 50 years in gospel music. He's celebrating with a brand new CD project and a brand new autobiography he's just completed called The Little Giant. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his new CD, talk about his life in general. Jamie, why did you decide to write this book?
Well, Scott, I actually knew that I had a story to tell. And the Lord laid it on my heart one day to get my story out there and share it with the public. So I started writing it, and it took a while. And when I started, I wrote about a month or so, and then I just got in a spot that I couldn't write anymore. I had to take a break, and I wound up taking about a year's break. And then we were coming back from a revival, and something just hit me that you need to finish that book. I was actually in Louisiana, and a lady came to me, and she said, "You need to write a book." And I said, "I've started writing one." She said, "Well, you need to finish it." And right then it clicked. I did need to finish that book. And so I went home and I started writing the book. And I started writing again. And man, I didn't stop till I finished it.
It's a great one. And what's been the reaction of people who have read it already?
To be honest with you, we've had some very good reaction from the book. As you know, people have been talking about it and making comments on social media and all over the place. And I haven't heard anything negative, which is good.
Sure it is. 50 years in gospel music. You must have been a kid when you started.
I was 6 years old.
6 years old.
Probably more than a kid. I was a baby.
We'll get to that. First of all, we got to get you born. Let's go back to October of 1966 when
Yes,
you were
sir.
born. You were the seventh child?
I was the seventh child, and I was born with 28 broken bones in my body at birth. And the doctors said that I'd never live. They said if I lived, I'd be mentally retarded. But I had a praying mama. A mama that believed in the power of prayer, believed in God, and she made the statement that if God can give him life, he can give us a miracle. And so she prayed that. They didn't want my mom to see me. They had told her, "You don't want to see him. You need to just let it go." And she said, "No, I want to see my baby." And they said, "But why would you want to see him when he's not going to survive?" And she said, "So I can lay my hands on him and pray for him." And that's what she did. After she was healthy enough to be able to walk down the hall, the doctor allowed my dad to walk her down there and see me. And she said I looked like a little bird that had fallen out of the nest and was broken all to pieces.
And what was the condition you were born with?
I was born with a disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is basically a brittle bone disease.
You were born with 28 broken bones. Then did you continue to break bones as you grew?
I did. I actually broke about 300 bones from the time I was born to the time I was about 18 years old.
300 bones.
Had 30 major operations.
Wow. Evel Knievel didn't have anything on you, did he?
No, he didn't.
I need to quit complaining about any broken ribs I might get.
You getting a few of them.
I'm not in your league. But you haven't had one lately, have you?
No, it's a miracle, Scott. They said I'd have breaks the rest of my life. And they actually said the older I got, that I would have more breaks. But, Scott, the Lord had a plan for me. He had a plan for my life. And, actually, if you read the book, you can see when I turned 18 years old and I graduated from high school, I began to pray that God would allow me to go full time in the ministry. And the only thing at that time after I graduated, the only thing that was holding me back was the operations and the broken bones. And I prayed, Lord, if you want me to go full time, you've got to take care of this. And that's exactly what he did.
Wow. You can hear all about Jamie's story, read all about it in his autobiography, The Little Giant. You can get it at jamiecoulter.online. That's his website. You can get all of his tour dates, see where he's going to be ministering at. And you can also get it on Amazon. And if you want autographed copies, go to his website, jamiecoulter.online, to get that. Before you turned 18, and you mentioned you prayed that prayer, let's go back about 12 years to age 6. There's a number of pictures in this book of you on a skateboard. Tell me how that all started. You're known as the Little Giant for many years. You've been known also as the Skateboard Preacher.
Well, I couldn't walk, and I wanted to be like everybody else. Actually, my mom was one that taught me, to not worry about my circumstance, not worry about what I was going through in life. And she said, son, you're a normal person. Act like one. And I said, but I can't walk. And she said, but I was scooting. I was scooting holes in the seat of my britches. And you remember the little Tonka truck?
Sure.
I was pushing one of them around one day, and I thought, if I climb on that Tonka truck, I might can get somewhere a little quicker. So I did, and I rode the wheels off of that Tonka truck, and I was back scooting. Well, one Christmas, my brother got a skateboard, and I got a bunch of books to read, and I was reading some of them books one day, and he was at school, and I happened to be out of school, and I looked over and saw his skateboard. And I scooted over there and I began to roll it, and I thought, this thing rolls pretty smooth. And it's a smooth surface. And I thought, what if I climb up on this thing? I might can get around a lot better. And so I climbed up on it, and man, I took off on it. I wheeled around in the kitchen where Mom was cooking, and she threatened me. She said, you better get off that thing, because if it don't kill you, I am. And so I said, but Mom, look how good I can get around. And she said, but you gonna break your neck. And I said, no, I'm not. I said, I can ride this thing. And I said, you're the one that taught me to be independent. And she couldn't argue with me. And so she let me stay on the skateboard. And when my brother got in, he didn't really like that until he began to notice how independent it made me. And from then on, the skateboard was history. I've stayed on it forever.
And you still use it?
I do. I don't use it to get around because I've got my electric wheelchair now, and I'm older. And but I do. It's what I use on stage. It's my signature on stage, and so I sing and preach off of the skateboard still.
And it really gets the attention of the kids.
Yeah, it does. We actually sell skateboards on our table now because somebody brilliant named Scot England suggested that we sell skateboards on our table, and we do, and we can't keep them.
He gives me the credit now until he gets the first lawsuit. Then he'll give me the blame. You have to be the only person in the ministry or in gospel music that sells skateboards at their merch table.
Probably am. I don't know of anybody else that would, or why they even would.
Well, I bet Bill Gaither would have. If he'd have come up with it, he'd have sold it.
Well, maybe Bill Gaither let me sell the skateboards at his deals.
About the time you found that skateboard, you found your singing voice. And you started singing in church.
I did. I actually I was singing with my Sunday school class. And as you know, I got a loud mouth. And so my Sunday school teacher didn't want to ask me not to sing with everybody else. I was drowning everybody else out. And so she didn't want to ask me to not sing. So one Sunday she asked me, she said, "Would you sing a special?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be glad to." And so she was the piano player as well. And so she played for me and I sang a special. And I did that for a month or two. And all of a sudden there was a guy sitting in the audience one Sunday morning that was a gospel music promoter. And after church, he went up to my mom and asked her if she would let me come sing at one of his concerts. And at first she said no, but my Sunday school teacher told her, "Marie, you're going to have to remember God gave him to you, and God wants you to let him use him." And she had to agree to that. And she told her that, I wasn't only hers, that I was the Lord's, and that the Lord wanted me to be the world's. Mm-hmm. And so she let me go, and I started singing, and that's also another history.
Before you really got heavily into singing, you spent most of your very early years in the children's hospitals and the Shriners hospitals.
Yeah, actually I was in children's from the time I was born till I was about 2 years old. And then the bills got so enormous that my parents, we were just poor people, my parents couldn't afford to keep me in the children's hospital. And so some folks in our hometown told my mom about Shriners Hospital down in Shreveport, Louisiana, and actually set up an appointment for them to take me down there. And I was at Shriners from that point on until I was 19 years old.
You were actually in the hospital when your mother found the song that would end up putting you on the map.
Exactly. A fellow named Steve Sanders that used to be
he was with the Oak Ridge Boys.
He was with the Oak Ridge Boys, but before he was with the Oak Ridge Boys, he sang gospel music.
When he was a kid?
Yes, and he was on a show called the Gospel Singing Jubilee. He sang a song called The Cripple Boy's Prayer. And my mom heard that song, and when she came to see me on a Sunday, because at that time in Shriners you could only have visitors from 2 to 4 on Sundays. And every Sunday she'd never miss a visitation. So she got there one Sunday, and every time I saw her, she had a smile on her face. But that Sunday, she had a song in her heart. And she said, "I heard a song that you gotta learn." And she started singing it. And she sang it over and over and over until I started singing with her. And then she said she noticed the doctors and nurses gathering around my bedside listening with tears in their eyes. And she just backed up and watched it and listened. And she said, right then I knew God had a plan and a purpose for me. A crippled boy in fairyland. Will my wings refuse to sail through the air? Lord, I know the way I am is for a reason. But will I be a crippled boy up there?
You ended up recording that song, putting it on record. You can hear all about it, read all about it in Jamie's autobiography, The Little Giant. You can get it at jamiecoulter.online, signed copies at his website, and also on Amazon. So the Cripple Boy's Prayer, you recorded it, and you also started seeing it on some telethons, on some TV stations.
I did. I was at a church in my local area, and a young lady that was doing the telethons. At that time, they were in Monroe, Louisiana, at the Civic Center, and all the Hollywood actors and producers would come there, and they would do the telethon, and she was a part of that program, getting everything lined up and scheduled. And she asked if I would come and sing. She asked my mom, and my mom told her that she would let me. And so we went there for me to sing, and we stayed there all day long, and they never put me on. And so the lady went to one of the Hollywood directors and said, "Look, you said he could sing, and he's been here all day and he hadn't sang, and we're gonna get him on." And he said, "Look, we just really don't have time." And she said, "No, he's gonna sing. He came all the way to sing, and we want him to sing. And if he don't, me and all these others are fixing to walk out." And about 30 minutes later, I sang, and I was really tired. I was about 6 years old, and my mom told her, said, "We gotta leave," right after I sang. And so we left. And man, the lights started coming on, the phone started ringing, and the board started lighting up, and they started trying to get police officers, and back then CB radio people, trying to find us and get us back to the Civic Center where I could sing again, but they didn't catch us. And we got home, and my dad met us, and he said, "What in the world is going on?" And we said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "The cops has been here, my phone's been going off the hook. They're trying to get y'all back to the Civic Center." And Mom said, "Well, why are they doing that?" And we had no clue what had happened. We never went back, but the next day, the Hollywood producer called my house and told my mom, "Next year, you have him here, and from then on, he's a regular on the telephone." And so I've done that show for about 25 years almost.
Really? Wow. You had quite an impact on them. After your high school graduation, you took a senior trip.
Yeah, guess where I came?
You went to Music City.
I went to Nashville, Tennessee. Yes.
And you got to meet Randy Travis. Tell us about that experience.
A friend of mine, Billy Bozeman, and my nephew, Chris, was on that trip with me. And we just came, my mama paid for us to come to Nashville. She asked me where I wanted to go. And it was hard for Mama to let go of me. She'd always took care of me. But she knew that if I was going to make it in life, I had to get out from under her apron strings. And she said, "Wherever you want to go, I'll pay for it." And so I said, "Nashville." And so we came to Nashville, and it was next to the last day. And we were at Tweety City, and just kind of, you remember where Tweety City?
One of my favorite places.
Yeah, and we were just looking around, and I looked up on the billboard, and it said Randy Travis in concert tonight. And I went to Billy and Chris, and I said, "Guys, I don't know where y'all going tonight, but I'm going to see Randy Travis." And the song, on the other hand, went #1 that very day. And so we went and purchased our tickets, and I wanted to see Randy so bad. I wanted to meet him, but I figured there would be no way of doing that. But we were going into the theater, and I heard somebody say, "Jamie Coulter," and I looked around, and I saw this guy. It was one of the security guys at the theater. And I said, "Yes, sir, that's me." And he said, "You came to one of our churches a few years back. And I remembered going to that church. I didn't remember the guy, but I remembered the church. And he said, "Is there anything I can do for you?" I said, "Yeah, matter of fact, it is." I said, "I would love to meet Randy Travis." And he said, "Well, the show's fixing to start in a little bit, and he's getting ready." He said, "But if you'll come to me afterwards," he said, "I think I can arrange that." And so he did, and I was able to meet Randy. And it kind of changed my life because Randy befriended me, and we became real close friends. But when I saw Randy on stage, man, I'd been with a lot of the gospel groups, even some of the big gospel groups that had the good bands. But when I saw Randy, it made a difference. And man, I wanted a band then. And so I began to reach for that goal of getting a band. And later on I did. But me and Randy, we were pretty close for a little while.
If you read Jamie's book, you'll know that he has been known for a lot of things in his life. One of those practical jokes.
Oh my goodness!
You see, he's got such a small body, and he can fit into tight places, like clothes racks at Walmart, and you jump out when somebody's looking, or underneath the tour bus when the souvenir man's getting out the merch, and you jump out. Stuff like that, I've heard.
I've done a few of those things, Scott, and a lot of it's in the book. Matter of fact, man, a lot of the groups enjoyed those things, because when I was with them, they initiated a lot of it. Matter of fact, we were on the road with the Isaacs one time, and Ben Isaacs came to me and picked me up and said, let's go somewhere. And I said, "Where are we going?" And he said, "Under the bay of my bus." And so I got under his bay, and they had one of their musicians come out, and I jumped out and scared him. And it was an ordeal. It scared the death out of him.
Since it's just me and you.
Yes,
nobody else is watching.
Yeah.
Did you ever get in like the clothes dryer?
I did.
You did?
I did. I sure did, man. I've been in clothes dryers.
And you jump out and read at your wife or your mom?
I never got in washers. But I was afraid they might turn it off or turn it on and I'd drown.
Oh, man. But he has gotten into the dryer, so just next time you do your laundry, just be looking in there.
One time, somebody asked me to get in their dryer, because they had heard the stories, and they hadn't turned the dryer off very long, and they put me in there, and it was still pretty warm in there.
Now, you've done numerous things in your ministry and with your music. Do you say what you're doing now? Are you in the ministry, or you do revivals, you do church, you do the music, or is it a combination of all of it?
It's pretty much a combination. I surrendered to preach when I was about 24 years old, 23, 24. Actually, August the 6th of 1989. So you figure that out. And that's when I surrendered. And man, I was just doing music at that time. And I didn't really want to preach, Scott, to be honest. I wanted to sing for the rest of my life. I wanted a career in gospel music. I did not want to preach. And I never dreamed that I would. But a few years before I surrendered, God began to deal with me to preach. And man, I ran from it for a long time. And then when I finally did surrender to the ministry, I thought, well, a year or so later, I'll probably get booked for a few revivals. I surrendered on a Sunday, morning. And that Sunday afternoon, I left for the road, and I was gone a week, and then I was supposed to be back the next Sunday to preach my first message, because when I surrendered, my pastor said, "When can you preach your first message?" And I said, he actually said, "When are you going to be back home?" And I said, "I'll be back next Sunday." And he said, "Prepare your first message to preach here." And I said, "Next week?" And he said, "Yeah." And so I left, and I was gone out for about 4 or 5 days singing, and I came back in. And when I came back in, I had 5 pastors that had called my answering machine ready to set up revivals. And so we booked revivals right after I started preaching. And man, it just started snowballing. And I found myself veering away from having a career in gospel music to having a ministry. Not really a career, just a ministry that God had opened the door for me to be in, to go and do what He called me to do.
But you still use the music in
I
your
do.
revivals.
I sing almost every service. I do 3 or 4 songs, and then I preach.
Who was the person that named you the Little Giant?
A fella named J.G. Whitfield. And if you're a gospel music fan at all, you know who J.G. Whitfield is. He was one of the biggest promoters in gospel music at the time. He started the Singing News magazine. He started a group called the Florida Boys. Mm-hmm. And J.G. was promoting some groups down, actually the Bible Tones of Mississippi. They were doing some homecoming type things, and they had groups like the Chuck Wagon Gang and the Hoppers and the Dealins and Wendy Bagwell and the Sunlighters and the Hensons. And so he started booking me on some of them. He kind of took me under his wing, started booking me on them dates. He had a big thing down in Bonifay, Florida, that he did, and I went down there a time or two. And one night, I don't even remember which night, but he was bringing me on stage, and he said, "I'd like to welcome the Little Giant of gospel music." And man, that stuck from then on. People just started calling me the Little Giant of gospel music.
And now you can read The Little Giant, the autobiography of Jamie Coulter. You can get it at Jamie's website, jamiecoulter.online. Signed copies are there. You can also get it on Amazon.com as well. And now tell me, time's getting away from us here, Jamie. I can talk to you all day, but tell me about your wife, Michelle.
Oh my goodness. My wife, Michelle, is a true miracle. She's an angel. I've had some, relationships that did not work in my life. And I was ready to give up on it. And all of a sudden, God dropped Michelle in my life. And man, this is a part of the conversation that I really didn't really expect you to ask me that question, and it will make me very emotional because Michelle is my life. God put her in my life, and she's a huge part of my life, and I don't know what I'd do without her. As you know, you've seen her. She works constantly, and she does anything and everything that needs to be done. She drives me. She sets up equipment. She cooks. She washes my clothes, but she loves me. And I couldn't ask for anything better.
And she goes on tour with you everywhere? And
she goes with me everywhere. Actually, I go with her.
I'll tell you.
Because she drives me everywhere.
Between you and I, If anybody ever over-married,
I
it's
know,
you,
Scott.
buddy.
I know that.
Man,
You don't have to tell me that.
I don't have to.
I overmarried big time.
You did. And
But you did too.
I did. We both did. Jamie, speaking of gospel stuff, your 50th anniversary CD, tell us about that.
Well, man, who would have ever thought that I would be recording a 50th anniversary CD? And here we are. We wanted to put original songs that I did years ago, that I'd stopped singing. And we wanted to put original songs that I just wrote. And then we wanted to put some classics. And to be honest with you, it's probably became one of our most requested CDs now. It's a tremendous CD. We had several people that came on and was a part of the CD that a lot of folks know. One of them is the Freemans. They came and done some background vocals. And then another group that a lot of folks in gospel music would know, the Martins. You were talking about Bill Gaither. The Martins do a lot of Bill Gaither. And they came on and helped us with some background vocals.
And Ben Isaacs helped a little bit?
Yeah,
too?
we actually recorded the tracks at Ben's studio, and he's on the project. He played the upright bass, and then all my friends like Kelly Back and Scott Sanders and Dirk Johnson and Bruce Watkins, they're all on the project.
And they can get that at your website?
They can get that at my website.
JamieCoulter.online for his 50th anniversary CD. And don't forget the Little Giant. Jamie, 50 years, has it flown by?
Man, Scott, I can't even believe it's here. You know, I can't believe that it's been 50 years. But here we are. I'm getting old, buddy.
I'm ready for another 50. How about that?
Man, if the Lord tarries His coming, maybe we can do another 50. Maybe, if not 50, let's shoot for at least 25 more years.
You know, I helped Jamie with his book, and I tell the story in the end of the book. And it's true. I was going to take the whole year off and not write any books and not do anything like that. And then Les Taylor called and asked me to help you. And I said, I was just taking the year off. And he said, well, just call him and talk to him. I said, okay, I'm going to tell him no. And so I called you and we talked. And you said you had written some stuff and you'd send it to me. And I said, well, I'm taking the year off. And you sent it to me. When you sent it to me, when you hit send, did you think I was going to say no?
To be honest with you, I did. And the reason I did, the reason I did is because you said, "Give me your email address," and I
Sure.
told Michelle, I said, "He ain't gonna do it." I said because he wanted my email,
Yeah.
and he
Easier
wanted
to turn you down.
He wanted to let me down easy, and
That was the plan the whole time. But the deal is, I could tell that I was, well, anyway, it wasn't working whenever we were talking on the phone. Because
I thank God
even though we hadn't met, and then once we met, it was all over. Because Jamie, as he's got such a small body, and there's just, I thought, and I told this to my wife, I said, I don't know why I couldn't tell that guy no. You know, why did I have to do that? But I had to do it. And I said, here's why I couldn't tell him no. He's got that little body, and he's got so much of the Holy Spirit inside him that it comes out. And when you're in His presence, you're in His presence. And I couldn't say no. And that's just the way it was, and that's how I got the book done. And you need to get the book, 'cause you'll love it.
Well, Scott, I want to say thank you for publishing the book. I do know that it was God. And we both give God the credit for that. Because we know that you wasn't going to do it.
And this has been a great year that I didn't take off, and I'm so glad that I got to know you and Michelle.
Oh my goodness.
And look forward to the years ahead.
And forever friendship.
Thank you all for being with us. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You're within my life, mirror your word, and all I do. And I'm not seen, but they see you. Yeah, they see you. Oh, they see you. Lord, they see you.